Following my last video where I showed you everything that I made in 2025, I've had a lot of questions about altered books. I have recently realised that I have been carving books for over 15 years now, which is as much a surprise to me as maybe anyone else. And I realised as well that a lot of you are interested in my background and how I got started with this art form. So in this video I'm just going to go from the very beginning all the way up until now, talking about how I developed them over time. And some of you may be familiar with my background already just from things that I've said in previous videos. I also understand that not everyone has the capacity or the time to sit and listen to a long talking video, so I've just divided everything into chapters, and you're very welcome to just skip along to whatever interests you. I won't be offended. I do understand why people are curious about this, so I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah. Some of you may know that I'm originally from the UK. I'm from Leeds, even though I'm very aware that I don't sound like I'm from Leeds. I moved to America as a teenager. My dad is a screen printer and took a better paying job in the US, first moving us to Massachusetts, then eventually to Washington State after a couple of years. From the ages of 15 through 18, I attended a public high school called Tacoma School of the Arts. Although it is a public high school, I had to apply with a portfolio with some of my artwork to get in. I had a little sketchbook of ink drawings at the time. I think back then, this is all public information by the way, don't worry. Back then I was there from 2007 till 2010, and there were only around 400 students in the whole school, around 100 in my graduating class, which as someone who is very introverted was brilliant. And attending an alternative sort of school like this had a significant impact on me and the way that I viewed art as a life path. I think it has probably increased in size by now, but we had traditional classes alongside art electives, set up a little bit like a college, where we travelled around the city to different buildings for each class. I graduated with a visual arts study in 2010 and primarily focused on illustration. I really enjoyed artists like MC Escher and Aubrey Beardsley, William Morris. I loved looking at illuminated manuscripts and early Art Nouveau posters and graphics, which I maybe got into because I had some knowledge around printing and lithography. I eventually got into oil painting as well towards the end, but I really wasn't an exceptionally skilled artist by any means, just, I think, devoted to creating things and learning about art, and it really was a lifeline for me. Even with the school being very small and artsy, I struggled to connect with people there, which is actually a lifelong struggle, to be honest. But I spent my lunch breaks and time between classes sitting in the art room, either sketching or reading. Reading has forever been my preferred escape route. At some point in my final year of school, I began reading books about paper art and handmade art books. I later began researching painting techniques for my senior year project and found my way to Impressionism and Pointillism. For this senior year project, I decided to make some accordion-style books about a few artists that interested me, along with paintings in the Pointillism technique inspired by Seurat. I had a little student exhibition at the Tacoma Public Library when it was finished. My art teacher deserves all the credit for this setup, even for the photographs. I was so shy that I couldn't bear to be in the room while people were looking at my work. I was really quite embarrassed. I'm also really surprised I didn't do anything about Van Gogh during this time because he has been my favourite artist since I was really young. I know his style is different, but still very influential to me. Mixed somewhere between my work on this project, I dabbled with an old book in an attempt to make a gift for someone. This was inspired by a book artist I had come across online called Dettmer. I really recommend checking out his work if you haven't, it's really quite interesting. I think this was the first time that I realised existing books could be used as a canvas. I didn't get the best grades in school. I was a dreamer, always distracted, often felt lost and strange and had a lot going on at home, and I was just a misfit really, and I'm sure many of you can relate. And so I was ambivalent about attending college. Based on a few written recommendations by teachers, I was urged to go to a college nearby in Tacoma to study art history mostly and psychology. I do really like research. However, I dropped out after I think 1 month, maybe it was 2. It was overwhelming for many reasons, and the cost factor was a huge stress. I don't come from a wealthy family and I didn't get any big financial assistance or scholarship, so I was very much in over my head and instead opted to work full-time. Over the next 2 years, I continued to draw and experiment with different types of paper art and books in the evenings and on weekends. Never seriously, purely just because I enjoyed it. I think I liked the challenge and it was therapeutic. One day in 2012, while wandering around Seattle, I found a box of free books by a dumpster, I think in the University District, and they were water damaged, but I took them home. Over time, I dried them out and then tried all kinds of ways to cut into them using my little X-Acto knife. Looking back, I think it just really pained me to see these books thrown away and wasted, so I was determined to do something with them. I eventually came up with a way to use the pages of a book like layers, cutting through them one by one and then drawing over the top. But this was after months and months of trying all different kinds of methods and materials. I cut my fingers a lot, and I remember having plasters or band-aids on nearly every single finger at one point. And thinking back to my interest in Impressionism and Pointillism, the layering sort of made sense to me. With these painting techniques, you have to stand back to see the colours really make sense together and for the image to come together as one. When you layer carved paper together, it's a little bit similar in that you have to stack them for the scene to come together. With what I was making, I put together a portfolio and applied to Oregon College of Art and Craft sometime in 2013, purely because they had a book arts program at the time. And to be honest, I really didn't think I would get accepted, and I did. But one of my conditions for going was receiving financial support, which I wasn't able to secure, so I again let go of that opportunity. I'd still love to go to school, and I think I'm more sure of myself now, but it would be to study something else. By 2014, I felt like I had developed something interesting with my altered books. Combining my usual illustration style with the carving just seemed to work together so well, and I, in a way, was able to lose myself in them, which I really needed. If any of you are familiar with bibliotherapy, it felt like another form of that, a physical manifestation of it maybe, using books and stories as a way to make sense of myself and the world. After finishing each piece, it was off my heart and I could close it up and file it away on a shelf. That's really part of the beauty in it sometimes, I think, though now mostly I put them on display. I started posting photos of my work to Instagram and my own website, seriously, sometime in 2014 as well. Mostly as a way to document the progression of what I was doing, hoping to get better. In 2015, I was then contacted by the wonderful Laurie Kearney of Ghost Gallery in Seattle, who offered me a place to exhibit my books for the first time. The space I used wasn't the gallery itself, but a spot just above a restaurant called Oddfellows in the downtown area. I very hesitantly accepted after some thought and had a mix of altar books and large illustrations on display. I don't think many people showed up for the opening. My dad and stepmom, a friend, a passerby or two, and I took that as confirmation that exhibitions were a terrible idea and that I should never do them again. However, I did agree to a duo show with another artist at a gallery called Urban Light Studios just a few months later. Mostly because I really admired this artist I was going to be showing with, and I really wanted to try again. I used the same artwork from the first exhibition, I believe, and this show was part of one of those art walk nights that many cities in the US have, so lots of people. I stood in a corner most of the night, unable to talk to anyone, immensely embarrassed of my books, mostly just because they were unusual and dark, and I just felt exposed, I think. I wasn't ready for it, and the books still felt like they were in the experimental stages, and I just didn't feel like an artist at all, and it took me a while to get over that. Despite the self-doubt, 2015 was the year that my work really seemed to catch people's attention, which surprised me a lot, and it was mostly due to 2 articles that were written. The first one was a feature in High Fructose magazine, which I was only aware of due to a roommate sending me information about it. Then a week or 2 later, an article was published on BuzzFeed. My inbox was all of a sudden flooded with people asking for commissions, and I was very, very, very nervous about it. I did slowly accept some commissions, but since I was working full-time, I think I was only able to make, about 2 commissions a year, which was still amazing to me, and it just felt like something that I should do. It's interesting to look at my old work. In 2017, I switched jobs and was working as a barista, then eventually a coffee shop manager in Seattle. A surprisingly stressful position, I have to say. Art took a backseat for a while, but I continued to create altar books when I had the energy and did at least 1 commission each year. By the time COVID came around, I lost my coffee job and decided that this was it. I was just gonna go all in with my work, and I did. I also sold all of my belongings and left the US, so it was a bit of a whirlwind during that time. It's been over 5 years since then. I've had to adjust and adapt quite a lot in order to make this sustainable. For the past 2 years, I've been doing exhibitions again, finally. And to keep up with my exhibition schedule, I've mostly been making the small altar books that many of you have seen. But I'm hoping to get back to carving old novels again by the end of 2026. I should clarify as well, I only use old, mass-produced books for carving, mostly romance novels, which are often hard to resell and frankly fill up landfills, so I don't use anything rare if you're worried about that. I've also been lucky enough to create some children's book covers over the last few years, just by chance, which I'm really proud of. I'd love to dive into that area more. And in the future, I would like to combine writing and poetry to my pieces once I find the courage. That's a whole other level of vulnerability to overcome, and I'm already working on this one. I would like to offer workshops or some other form of interactive, community-related things, but I can't picture what that would look like yet. I've been told that it might be fun to try being an adjunct artist in a school one day, but that thought really fills me with imposter syndrome, so... But for those curious, I do have an introduction to altar books class on my website. I will link it for you, which covers the process for altering a small sketchbook or lined journal just using a glue stick, which I think is more easily available to most of you. And I made that class a few years ago, and I think it's still suitable. I hope so, anyway. As far as materials go, I don't use anything too complicated. I use ink, color pencils, an art knife, and bookbinding glue. The little books I've been using recently are mixed media sketchbooks from Talon's Art Creation. But yeah, as you can probably tell, this is a really slow evolution. I've had some amazing opportunities to present my work to the world, despite its unusual nature. And that's mostly because I've continued to make them and continued to document my progress. In essence, continued to make my work visible even when it's difficult. I'm very grateful to everyone that has sent an opportunity my way and for everyone that has supported my efforts throughout the years. For everyone that sees me. There have been many moments of feeling enormously discouraged. These moments still occasionally come up, but there has always been at least one person out there in my corner, and that's all it takes to keep going sometimes. For aspiring artists wanting to dive into a creative path, I would say to start small. Document your progress and collect inspiration and reflect on how it moves you. Show the work that you're not 100% sure about as well as the work that you're proud of, and put yourself out there in ways that are comfortable to you and not in the ways you think are expected. I'm trying to think of how to explain why I'm so passionate about making altered books. I think that a book is a really powerful symbol. And also, the way that we create and tell stories can be transformative and incredibly deep, in the sense that it's just so very human of us. Personally, the stories I try to tell with my work are based on this theme of the unknown, mixed with roots, regeneration, growth, stepping across a threshold of something, but I think also more simply, I hope they touch on how books and stories impact us, how alive a story can feel within us. I know this type of art is highly inefficient. I'm always reminded of how much faster it would be to use a laser cutter or how much more money I'd make if I could mass produce, but I really don't want that. In this technology-focused bubble that we live in now, I think we need more things that remind us of our connectedness, not more things that isolate us. More things that remind us of how complicated and painful and beautiful everything is. So, art that is still handmade and slow and personal and sincere is so important. And I strive for that above everything else. I'm sorry if that sounds pretentious, I really hope it doesn't. I think it's just my sentiment, I guess. Creating doesn't have to result in becoming an artist who has exhibitions or commissions or a large following. It could be that you do it to connect with people or yourself. It's not supposed to be a performance, it's supposed to make your heart sing. Anyway, I do just want to say thank you to everyone for reaching out, emailing, asking questions, and leaving such beautiful compliments and words of encouragement on my videos since the last one. It has been a really lovely way to start the new year and caught me completely off guard, and I deeply appreciate it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about all of this, and I hope as well that this maybe encourages you to create some art. This is probably more than I speak in a whole week, by the way.